Thanks for thanks for reminding me. Okay, all right. So we'll try for 13 minutes here. All right.
Yeah. How can you ever just get your microphone right? You need a stand.
What's wrong with my microphone?
No, just people talk to me about it.
What do they say?
Yeah, they make fun of you.
Yeah, good. Well, people make fun of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do they think? Do they think it looks like I'm like talking to a dick or something?
No, his arms get tired or whatever.
Do people make fun? Maybe people are making fun of me because I'm talking to a dick.
Yeah. Okay. Can we start the show?
All right. I'm just getting hurtful. I'm going to hit the button. Hold on. I've got some effort, and it's funny. I've got some affirming words for you here. So just hang tight. I'm going to inspire the fuck out of you. Hold on.
You're listening to The Weigh-In with Mike Parson.
What are you cackling at, fatty? Too much pie, that's your problem.
And Fred Slow.
Anybody want a peanut?
On demand 24/7 at WeighInRadio.com.
Someday somebody's gonna make you want to turn around and say goodbye.
Fred?
Yes, sir.
Sometimes life is tough, and things you love leave you. But damn it, Fred, I've had enough. It's time for you to put the bottle down, pull yourself up out of the gutter, and live again. Not only live, Fred, love again. And today, your new life starts today. Nay, your new life starts right now. And we're going to find you a new football team, Fred, because you need it. The audience needs it. And let's be honest, your poor saint of a wife needs it because she needs a break from you every Sunday during football season. So we're going to have to figure out a way to find you a new football team now that old man Kroenke has fled to the West Coast.
I've been putting a lot of thought into it, Mike. I think there is a way for me to, because originally I planned just to go with Hard Knocks. Whoever Hard Knocks was going to follow, that's who my new team was going to be.
How devastated were you when you went back to investigate the Miami Dolphins roster and being a fan of them, only to find out that Dan Marino has long since retired?
And that was news to me when I checked last week. I thought for certain that Dan Marino and Larry Zonka were still with the Miami Dolphins, and they were not. Larry had moved on to some American Gladiator. I'm not familiar, but I guess it did well.
Oh, was he Nitro?
No, he was the broadcaster.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we've kind of talked a little bit off air about this, and I'm excited to not formally announce because we haven't worked out all the hinges, all the kinks. But what I would like to do, Mike, if possible, is create a weigh-in bowl. And what that is, it's a bracket-style tournament facing all divisions of football where we will put teams against each other, submit those teams to a fan vote, our vote included. Mike, we're not going to get out of control here. I'm not going to end up a Titans fan. You know what I mean? And we're going to have these teams battle it out for my fandom, which is, I would think, at least to the Oakland Raiders, more important than actually winning a Super Bowl.
Fred, I've got to be honest. I only really watched the weigh-in bowl for commercials, so I may not be very helpful on this.
What we will do is we will have one fan from all 32 NFL teams, including the Los Angeles Rams, submit to me a reason of why their fandom exists, why I should direct my new fandom towards their team, and then we will pit these 30-second to 1-minute videos against each other in a knockdown, throw out Thunderdome style tournament.
And I will do everything in my power, Fred, to make sure that the Los Angeles Rams wins the weigh-in bowl.
So what? Yeah, no, there's no doubt in my mind that you will. What we will do is we're going to set it up through our YouTube channel, or we're going to create an outlet. It's not done yet. This is all in the works.
Yeah, this is just spitballing ideas. Really, I probably shouldn't have let the cat out of the bag this soon, because now we definitely have to follow through on this.
I'm excited for this because this makes us accountable. So next week, so what this is the week before the NFC AFC championships. So we'll announce it next week before the Super Bowl, and then at the week after the Super Bowl, we'll kick it off. So we'll get all of our submissions in before then from at least 32 NFL fans, and then we will decide which team I now root for. I'm excited to buy a new hat. And
Fred, let's be honest. In the winter, nothing really starts until football season's over, right? We've got NHL, NBA's going on, but aside from the Golden State Warriors, nobody's really paying attention to those two sports. But not soon after football season ends, baseball's right around the corner. And this week, there's been some scuttlebutt about some major changes to the National League game. American League game will stay pretty much the same. And I grew up in an American League city. Fred, you're obviously from a National League city.
Absolutely.
Where, as we all know, the National League does not have a designated hitter.
Well, no, we play baseball in the National League. It's different.
Yeah, you guys play 1930s style double switch sacrifice bunt strategy ball, while us over here in the American League are just enjoying dingers from aging superstars who can still kind of bat but can't play the field. What I'm trying to say is Rob Manfred is flirting with the idea of bringing the designated hitter to the National League as early as the 2017 season.
Ooh, well, that is straight blasphemy, if you ask myself. The senior Bulls.
Your computer just totally froze on me there. Hello?
Yeah, what do you want? I mean, what do you want to do?
Oh, that's okay. Okay, you said straight. What is I'll edit it. What was the last thing you said?
Well, no, I completely disagree, Mike. The Senior League wants nothing to do with the DH. If the National League knew we were going to have the DH, we would still have Albert Pujols because we would have been able to keep him for the next 25 years cracking dingers here in St. Louis.
And don't you wish that you could have had those 25 years back, Fred? If you guys would have always had the designated hitter, Albert Pujols would still be yours.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what we cannot now adopt the DH. That is unacceptable. And also, like I said, I'm a big fan of baseball, and having the DH is what I would not call baseball.
Well, yeah, but let's face it. We referenced the 1998 home run race a couple of episodes ago, where nobody was watching baseball after that big strike in the 90s until Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire downed some creatine and were hitting baseballs out of the park left and right, and that got people back into it. I see what Rob Manfred's doing because, yes, Fred, the National League is the thinking man's game. But in this 15-second Vine, 140 characters or less society, people don't care about strategy. They just want to see the long ball.
I want you to think about the game, okay? I want you to think about 9 players on the field. I want you to think about the infield and the outfield. And I want you to tell me right now, as an American League fan, where are you going to put David Ortiz on the field?
Exactly.
That is exactly, Mike, because he doesn't play baseball. He's a hitter, okay? It's not the same game. The National League does not need the DH. That's why interleague play is so much fun, because you come here and watch guys who manage in the AL just screw it up. I hate the idea of Rob Manfred, my namesake, going and changing my game that I've been in love with all my life. First the Rams, now the DH. What else can you take away from me, sports?
Well, number one, I want to put that out into the universe because you're just asking for trouble. And number two, I think you do have a point, though, where part of the appeal of interleague play is seeing how a national team, a National League team, does with the American League rules and vice versa. And you will lose a little bit of that. But like I said, I really think that they're going for the shock and wow factor. I don't know why Rob Manfred decided to adopt the American League rules over the National League rules, but I think now that interleague play happens so frequently, I think you do need a uniform set of rules.
A thing that I like about National League Baseball is the idea that you have the quote-unquote easy out, right? The level of excitement you get from the American League watching a guy like David Ortiz or Vlad Guerrero or a guy like that, Edgar Martinez in Seattle a million years ago, seeing them make these big plays and these hits, these at-bats where you know they're going to produce every single time through the lineup, the opposite of that in the National League is just as exciting to me. Watching a pitcher come up and look a fool or maybe accidentally cork one into right center. I'm thinking Bartolo Colon with the Mets. This kind of stuff, I'll get on the edge of my seat a little bit. I don't necessarily go and sit down when Adam Wainwright is up and he's taking hacks.
Well, and Fred, let's be honest. The only thing that's more exciting than seeing a pitcher accidentally hit a home run is watching a goalie score a goal in hockey. But it is interesting you bring up the easy out, because I will be very fascinated to see if this happens, what effect the designated hitter will have on National League ERAs. I almost said IRAs. I'm thinking retirement here. I decided to pull up some stats, Fred, which I'm usually not a big stats guy because I feel like just about anyone could pull up a stat sheet and read it. But I'm looking at the top team ERAs from 2015, and the best team ERA in the AL, the Cleveland Indians. No, I'm sorry, Houston, because Houston's an AL team. And they are 6th. So the top 5 teams in ERA are all National League teams, and that obviously is attributable in part to that easy out at the bottom of the lineup.
My doppelganger in life is Adam Dunn. If you're a listener of the show and you've never seen me and you don't, just look up Adam Dunn. He looks like we have the same mother, basically. Watching Adam Dunn flop around at first base is some of the most entertaining baseball I've ever seen. I don't like the idea of making the game so scripted in a way to where you can approach it the exact same way every single game. You lose managing, you lose versatility. Guys that found a lot of early success in their career. Let's talk about the Cardinals. Let's talk about Matt Carpenter, a guy who's played 5-6 bags. Our hitting coach, John Mabry, who played 9 positions whenever he played. There is a reason baseball players are baseball players, and there's a reason hitters are hitters. And if you take away a whole aspect of the game, that's like taking special teams out of football. Me and you complain about moving the kick up on the kickoff. This is the same thing to me. You're just taking the game and you're turning it infantile. You're taking away complexity, and you're taking away the part of the game that I gravitate to.
Fred, are you telling me that you're not looking forward to seeing the evolution of power hitting right fielder to power hitting first baseman to power hitting designated hitter as his skills slowly decline? Because I'm telling you, as an American League guy, that's joyous. It's like watching your parents go senile. It's beautiful, and it's a harsh reality of life that we need to deal with.
What is more impressive to you, watching a guy move all the way down the right field line to DH, or watching a guy like Jose Canseco bounce one off the top of his head because he can't field it and it goes out for a home run? That's what I'm talking about, Mike. We won't have that, okay? We won't have that level of surprise and allure by putting guys who can actually play the field in the field and putting guys who can actually hit only to hit.
Do you think that ball would have had less bounce if Jose Canseco's head wasn't enlarged by steroids? Like if he had like a normal non-juiced head, it would have just hit him in the head and fallen with a thud to the outfield grass.
I don't know if he's such a smart guy, but he's spongy. I'm going to assume his skull is spongy. I'm not even sure if that makes sense. Do you remember when Manny Ramirez threw a cutoff from the outfield? Do you remember this? It was in the playoffs, I think, a couple of years ago, and the ball's hit the deep center field, and he comes in for some reason, and he cuts off a cutoff at like 30 feet. They took Manny Ramirez's glove away after that game. I don't know if you know that. They physically took it from him. They said he can't play the field anymore.
Right.
You have to have these kind of guys, or the game is not what it should be. The game is it's stupid. That's not a strong argument.
I was going to say, Fred, how many years was Manny Ramirez able to milk some sad sack general manager because of the designated hitter rule? If he was in the National League, his career would have been over 5 years before it really was.
I'm not arguing with you because you're not wrong, but do not bring the designated hitter to the National League because I'm a purist of the sport, and like I said, I like watching weird stuff happen, and weird stuff happens when guys who can't play the field play the field.
Guess what, Grandpa? It doesn't matter what you want because it's happening. Rob Manfred has the power to keep Pete Rose out of baseball, and he has the power to bring the designated hitter to a National League park near you.
I miss my childhood. You're listening to The Weigh-In on 590 KFNS, 590thefan.com.
Oh, good. I was hoping we were towards the end because it was one of those things like, shoot, I don't know if we're at the end here or not or what.
No, we.
Okay, so yeah, what I'll do is I'll just find that like when I wasn't saying nothing, when I wasn't saying nothing, when I wasn't saying anything, you totally disappeared, and I was hoping it would come back by the time you're done with your thought, but it wouldn't. So I'll just edit it.
My bad. We'll figure it out.
No, it's probably not your bad.
It'll be good for YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just sitting there looking at a blank screen.
I don't know if it'll stay on like my picture, the YouTube channel or whatever, but your face was this.
What, just now?
No, during that freeze when you were waiting, you were like,
well, probably because it was like 10 seconds, so it'll probably be it's a long time.
Hey, I'm being serious when I say this. Like, watching Mark Reynolds at first base just like flail his arm at like trying to scoop a ball is some of the funniest shit you'll ever watch. Like, some of these dudes just don't own a glove, man. David Ortiz doesn't own a glove.
Yeah, well, Fred. And yeah, well, you know what? And I guess the question is, if you have a designated hitter and you have to put him out in the field, the only place you can put him is first base. But even that's a liability, obviously.
I play first base, so.
I played catcher because I'm fat, but I'm not tall.
See, I play first base because I'm tall and fat.
Right, fat and tall, first base. Short and fat, you're either the catcher or they stick you out in right field and just tell you to play back and don't let any balls past you. All right, you want to do these projected storylines here?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, cool. All right, here we go. I'm keeping an eye on my time as well.
Am I coming back or are you?
You can come back.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. It's 25 right now, so at 38 we'll break. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Now, back to the weigh-in.
Thank you so much for saying what needed to be said.
WeighInRadio.com.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Welcome back to the weigh-in. I, of course, am Fred Slow. Alongside me, my partner in crime, Mike Parsons. Mike.
Fred.
Big championship matchups today. 4 teams that deserve to be there. 3 number 1 drafted quarterbacks overall. Another guy. And then from there can only be 2 champions. 2 champions to face off in the Super Bowl, Mike. The game of games. The NFL film treatment of that's the whole reason the NFL films exist. Only 2 teams will make it to the Super Bowl, but along with them will come their storylines, Mike.
Right. And Fred, I feel like we are about to enter the 2 most annoying weeks in all of sports. Those 2 weeks between the championship games and the big game, the Super Bowl.
So you're telling me you are not a hype guy. You're not buying in to the hype.
You know what? I'm all about the hype until the Monday before. So, the whole work week after the championship games. But that second week is when they really start stretching for things, or they'll really beat a dead horse into submission. And I thought it might be a fun idea, Fred, for us to pick the 4 teams that are vying for a Super Bowl bid and try to guess what overdone storylines will be covered and talked about to death until the big game on the first Sunday in February.
So our matchups today are Carolina, Arizona, and that's at Carolina. And our matchups today are New England, Denver, the final chapter, they say, between Manning and Brady, and this is at Denver. So we're going to take those 4 teams, and dependent upon who wins, we're going to predict the storylines for the Super Bowl.
Right. Now, I think the most fertile ground for storylines is if New England is from the AFC, from New England and or Denver. So let's get Arizona out of the way, because I feel like all the producers on ESPN, all the producers in sports talk radio are probably going to be bummed the most if Arizona makes it, because they have, I think they have the biggest lack of sexy storylines. The only two that I can really see kind of coming out of this, and they're whatever AFC team they're playing against, it's going to be all them with just a little bone thrown at Arizona. Probably the Carson Palmer redemption story. He was a first-round draft pick, 2003, won the Heisman Trophy, had a good couple years in Cincinnati. Then he was sort of seemed like he was sent out to pasture with the Raiders until him and Bruce Arians met in Arizona, and he kind of revived his career. So I think that is going to be one of the big storylines if Arizona makes it.
I like that. I feel like my storyline is the ever aging yet ever invincible Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald's been in the game for a long time. Larry Fitzgerald has always kind of been at the top, right? He's been a top tier dude, but he's never got to that next level. He's never put his name up there with, and he's constantly being surpassed by guys, right? Charles Johnson surpassed him. Excuse me, not Charles Johnson. The kid in Detroit, 81.
Megatron, Calvin Johnson.
Calvin Johnson passed him. Antonio Brown has now passed him. There's just always a guy that's keeping Larry number 2, number 3, number 4 on the list, Julio Jones. I like the idea of Larry Fitzgerald making it to the big game and maybe winning one before it gets to the time when he's not the man anymore.
That's a damn good one, Fred. And I think if Arizona wins, he's going to be the one guy everyone's happy for. The other storyline I can see is Bruce Arians' unlikely journey to Super Bowl head coach, because he kind of got his break amid some adversity. Chuck Pagano, he was an assistant coach in Indianapolis. Chuck Pagano got cancer. Bruce Arians stepped up, got him to a playoff berth, and then he got a shot in Arizona where he's taken the ball and ran with it.
No, it's going to be hard for me to argue with that, because that's a juicy one. I mean, you're going to hear that one. That one's going to come up. I think if I had a final one about Arizona, it's the idea of the rookie running back making it all the way to the, you make it this far and you do it with an unproven guy. And it's just going to kind of reinforce that NFL idea that you don't need a workhorse guy that can take it 25 times a game. The Vikings made it to the playoffs. They went out in the first round with Adrian Peterson. You, at this point, the way the game is structured, do not need a guy that's off the top shelf of running backs. You can just get a serviceable guy, and I think David Johnson, that storyline could exist.
Now, the team I think is going to win that game, obviously, and I think most people think they're going to win the game, the Carolina Panthers. I think that it's a safe bet to say whatever storyline is beaten to death over those 2 weeks, it's going to revolve around Cam Newton, especially no matter which quarterback he's playing, Brady or Manning. I think one of the storylines is Brady, is Manning, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Are they now passing the torch to Cam Newton as the marquee quarterback in the league?
Yeah, you're on to something. I think it's a little, and I think Cam Newton's a leader. I think Cam Newton is leading his team because his team is young guys, and that's why I think he works perfectly there. The story with the Carolina Panthers is the story it's been all year. There's going to be the kookiness of the Carolina Panthers, and that's when what are they doing right now? They're creed bombing. I don't even know what that means. They're sneaking up on each other and singing lyrics to what, Jars of Clay or Hands of Clay or whatever that album is.
Is that really? Is
That's
that
a real
really?
thing? They're doing this is so they come out of the shower and then with arms wide open.
Oh my
And this
God.
is
I
these
love.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Nothing. I've been all about Cam Newton this season. That just, I think he's my all-time favorite player now.
And there's stories circulating right now about how since this historic run, they only eat at the Waffle House or whatever. Like, these are the stories that's going to follow the Carolina Panthers into the Super Bowl. Is the how loose they are, how they're wonderkins, and how they shouldn't be where they are so early. That's the story that pushes the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it will be either about Cam Newton's bad attitude and classlessness, or his good attitude and how much he's grown since he first came to the league, depending on if the person's a Cam Newton fan or not. But you're also going to hear a lot about how he's revolutionizing the position, Fred. And I can see why people think he's revolutionizing the position because he's the size of a linebacker. He's got running back playmaker ability and speed, and he just somehow mastered the art of the drop back passer. Now, I'm not sure if that's a revolution because I don't think there's enough people who can do what Cam Newton can do at his size for it to be a revolution. It's not like a coach can say, hey, go out and get me a linebacker who can run like a running back and throw like an all-pro quarterback. There's probably coaches out there who spent their whole career looking for that guy. So, yes, if there are enough people who could emulate what Cam Newton does, it would be revolutionizing the position, but I think that he's such a freakish talent, you can't really say it's a revolution because it's not going to change the way the game's played because people just don't have the skill set.
I think finally for the Carolina Panthers, a real heartfelt story is obviously going to be about Greg Olsen and his son TJ. His son TJ's had several open heart surgeries. He's just like the toughest guy in the world, and Greg Olsen's kind of carried that burden for a while. And these are the kind of things that my wife loves these stories, and I do too. I mean, I'm such a softie for, overcoming the odds and success. And I know Greg Olsen's teamed up with some children's hospitals and done a lot of fundraising stuff in his community. I really like the idea of that kind of story grabbing the headline, that kind of story taking the forefront for a Super Bowl contender.
And the other story that I think might be an also ran is Riverboat Ron Rivera overcoming his house burning down to become a Super Bowl coach. I mean, that's some adversity I get, I mean, it happened after the season, but I don't know. I wouldn't be that good at my job if I was rebuilding my house that burnt down.
Well, and the first thing you do after your house burns down is you ban hoverboards. Get them out of here. Stop drag racing, you kooky kids.
That's true. I don't think there were hoverboards around back then. I don't know how his house burnt down, but this Christmas last Christmas I don't think it was a hoverboard. All right. So in the AFC, Fred, of course, we've got the New England Patriots at the Denver Broncos, and I think that if the Patriots move on, the storylines will be: is Tom Brady the greatest quarterback of all time? And I think you can say it was now, but I think it's going to be a topic of conversation because they got 2 weeks of content to fill. Was the Deflategate controversy overblown? No pun intended.
Yeah, they've just carried the burden of cheating. And if you remember a couple months back, Deadspin released an article on how the New England Patriots have been cheating for years and the NFL has covered it up. And there's this idea that New England has found success through the most rotten and dirty techniques. And I don't know if that's good or if that's bad, because they've grown that brand and they've grown that fan base and they've been perennial contenders. And if the worst thing that comes away from this is a bad reputation, I think you're doing all right.
Right. Well, and also, Fred, I think that someone may find another cheating scandal, and I hope to God not, because I have to say, the Deflategate controversy that broke right before Super Bowl week, right? Didn't it? During those 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
So I was very sick of that story, and I think that. Look, I don't think if it's true that the Patriots were doing what they were accused of doing, I don't think that they're doing anything that any other NFL team isn't doing. They're just so successful that people are trying to rationalize it, right? They've been so consistently good for so long that they have to be cheating, right? There's no other possible explanation.
Well, and that kind of takes me to my big storyline, and that's the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady saga. That's their lineage. This very well could be their absolute last chance at a championship. And if they win one, I mean, those are some impressive numbers between a coach and a quarterback that I don't know if I can personally, from my own recollection, draw anyone who even compares.
You know what would be really interesting to me? And I think there's a better chance that we're going to see Bill Belichick without Tom Brady than we will Tom Brady without Bill Belichick. It'd be interesting to see those guys separated while Brady's still playing at a high level. Somehow Brady ends up with another team. Bill Belichick ends up with another team. Either way, they're no longer coach and quarterback. and we'll see where they did they work well together. Was one guy kind of carrying the load, and both of them were getting the credit? And I don't think we're ever going to get that answer, because I think Tom Brady is probably going to retire a Patriot, and Bill Belichick's going to be around for a long time, unless they find something super, super egregious that he did.
I think New England has tapped at the drive to 5, which is, that's a clever name. But yeah, I think you're right. To remove those two from each other, they both have excellent work ethic, the way I understand it. They both prepare better than anyone else. That's the game. I would think they would have a chance to be successful on their own. I don't necessarily know. My final kind of storyline for the New England Patriots, if they make it to the Super Bowl, would be them overcoming the injury bug. Right?
Oh, that's right. Yep.
It seems as almost every single player on that lineup, and I think even earlier in this week, backup now starting wide receiver Matthew Slater bust his shin open running into Cameron. It's just every single day there's another guy. And former St. Louis Ram and Atlanta Falcons running back Steven Jackson has now come out of semi-retirement to replace their running back situation. This is a team that is literally playing on crutches.
And Fred, I don't know if you know this. I actually played in a game where I caught 3 balls for 27 yards before I was sidelined with gout.
That was outstanding. And I know Scott Chandler was mad because he was 3 catches away from that big roster bonus. So
yeah, sorry, Scott. Hey, I owe you some Denny's.
So,
all right.
So this leaves Denver, which would lead me to ask, Mike, is Denver your favorite in the Denver-New England matchup in Denver later this afternoon?
No, I don't know. I think it's going to be New England and Carolina, and I feel bad for Denver, because could you imagine having Peyton Manning in his prime with that Denver defense? I mean, they probably would have gone 16-0 and all the way to it. But I don't know. It's just New England. They're like cockroaches. They just find a way.
Well, the strength of Denver's defense, I think, is the issue on offense, because, man, they struggle. That offensive line struggles. They're not putting up points. Peyton Manning is 38 years old all of a sudden. I think that's your number one storyline, is the riding into the sunset for Peyton Manning. Will he or will he not at the end of this one call it?
And you know exactly what the debate will be that lights up the phone lines. Peyton Manning, does his legacy depend on this game? If he wins it, he goes down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He still will anyway, but if he doesn't win this, will he be known as that guy who can't win that big game?
He has a chance, just like John Elway, to go out on top. He's in Denver working alongside John. It's not 2 in a row, but it's going to be the one. We know if he does come back next year, it's not going to be at any real contribution. We talked about Brock Osweiler a couple weeks ago. He's young and he's talented, and the Broncos would be flawed for many years if they do not sign him to a high-dollar contract to put him in a starting role. Peyton Manning riding into the sunset is the only storyline for the Denver Broncos.
Well, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Peyton Manning, John Elway mashup piece where they're being compared to each other. I also wonder if Peyton Manning, he's a topic of conversation for 2 weeks where you're just stretching for stuff. If the HGH stuff will resurface, I think it has a better chance of resurfacing if they make it to the Super Bowl than if they don't.
Peyton Manning, leader on the field, leader outside the field. He's not going to address those issues. What he's going to do is he's going to bring his poise and his Super Bowl and many-year experience to the Denver Broncos. He's going to help those younger kids in an effort against whatever NFC opponent he has. The Denver Broncos have a chance if Peyton Manning can just for 2 weeks muster up the Peyton Manning of old.
Surprise, surprise, Fred. We're late for the break. It's the Weigh-In. 590 The Fan, 590thefan.com, and weightinradio.com.
Good job.
Okay, yeah. You too. Okay, so we're at 42 minutes. Do you just want to do a 13-minute segment here and just do 3 segments?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so let's start off.
Can we go a little loose though?
What's that?
Can we be a little looser? I got there's a lot of stuff in the news that I think is really funny.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you just kind of throw, you know what? Why don't you for this just kind of throw a grab bag and we'll just kind of we'll just kind of riff.
I like it.
Okay, cool. Here we go. All right, so go ahead and bring us back. And like I said, we'll do a 13-minute segment. That'll take us to 55. I can add in the commercials. And bada boom, bada bing. All right, here we go. I know exactly what to play at the beginning of a loose segment. Hold on.
Now, back to the weigh-in. WeighInRadio.com.
If you're ready for the weigh-in radio, give me a heck yeah.
Hell yeah. That's the only impression I do is Stone Cold.
Hey, you kill it. You hit that like 21 to 35-year-old who knows who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. Well, did you see legendary WWE 20-year broadcaster JR has just signed Jim Ross at Jim Ross Barbecue on Twitter, just signed a deal with New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you, like me, if your dreams are narrated by the voice of JR, you can hear him now. Fresh, not necessarily live. They tape it ahead of time in Japan, send it to LA. He dubs it over. I don't care. Play-by-play action.
My God, Fred Slow is a no good human being. I used to love when Jim Ross would always drop the human being line. It was always, he's a no good human being. Or, my God, stop the match. That's a human being in there.
He broke him in half. He's been broken in half.
Stop the damn match.
When I was a fan of the St. Louis Rams years ago, there was this guy named Tavon Austin, right? And Tavon Austin would regularly break punt returns for touchdowns. And then inevitably, somebody on the internet would mash up a JR call on a Tavon Austin kick return. So it'd be Stone Cold, Austin's in the match. And people who are far more talented and funnier than me would take these videos and they would create them in a way to where I would just watch them over. I'm 1,000 of the 1,050 views this video would have.
You know what, Fred? If I were in charge of a major league sports team, why haven't any of them gone after Jim Ross? How incredible would it be to hear Jim Ross doing play-by-play for your Cardinals?
Well, no, I don't know if you're being serious or if this is a lead. Famed like Jim Ross, Hall of Famer Jim Ross has said publicly many times, I would broadcast for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Call them.
They pick up the phone. Get the demographic. Do you know how wrestling fans are the worst? I'm a big Mark, man. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I broadcast for Wrestling Invades America. I watch everything. I absorb it. I'm active. With that said, there's nothing worse than wrestling fans. I'm going to go to WrestleMania and I'm going to drop $1,000. You know why? Because I'm in my 30s and I got extra money and I love wrestling. If you put Jim Ross on a broadcast, hey, Mike Shannon's only going to do half the games for the Cardinals now. He's only doing the home broadcast. Send Jim Ross on the road. Put Jim Ross out there. I'm listening. I'm there, Cardinals.
And you don't have to spend a whole lot of money on Jim Ross because he came up through the ranks of the wrestling world where, they just slept in the arena. But
you let Jim Ross talk about his barbecue? That's all he needs because he already sells it to Wrestling Fan because Wrestling Fan will pay for anything.
There you go, Fred. You give him 100% of his barbecue sauce profits. You don't even have to pay the man.
There's an outrage right now on the internet, right? So there's this outrage about Phil Brooks, known to most of the world as CM Punk, who was the huge wrestler in the WWE from 2007 to 2014. So he quits the WWE famously. He walks out after the Royal Rumble because he's not going to get the main event at the WrestleMania, and he's a little butthurt, right? Mm-hmm. So he does a terrible shoot interview where he just rips the WWE apart, buries that relationship just like Stan Kroenke did with the Rams, and he signs with Dana White in the UFC. He has been for approximately 18 months training to wrestle in the squared octagon, which, by the way, I don't know if that's a real measurement.
The squared octagon. Maybe the octagon circle is what you're looking at.
So he says, I'm serious about this UFC thing. I'm 36 when I'm signing. Yeah, it's going to take me a while to get ready. I'm 38 now. I'm going to fight at UFC 199 or 200. I'm not sure which one. And fans are outraged, Mike. They're outraged.
At CM Punk, is there now, Fred? You're going to have to clue me in because I haven't watched wrestling since the Attitude Era. Is there a rivalry between UFC and WWE? Like, I always hear people talking about comparisons between mixed martial arts and boxing, but I wasn't aware that there might have been some beef between UFC and WWE.
Hard no. There is a kinship between the two. In fact, Brock Lesnar, who is a very successful amateur wrestler, went from WWE to UFC and won the UFC Heavyweight Championship of the world.
Ken Shamrock made the jump too years before that.
Yeah. Strike that, reverse it. Ken Shamrock absolutely did that. Brock Lesnar is the only guy to hold the NCAA Championship, the WWE Championship, and the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Like,
that should lend some credibility to wrestling, right? Because you would think, oh, wow, hey, this guy is going from fake wrestling to real mixed martial arts. But Brock Lesnar wins the championship in both. So it shows at least as, I think at least it legitimizes the athleticism and the toughness of pro wrestling, even if the outcome is scripted.
Well, and the outrage is absurd. I mean, the outrage is he doesn't deserve it. He didn't earn it. He didn't necessarily go the same path as fill in 100 other fighters that aren't at the UFC level. And we've actually talked about this a lot off the air, but ultimate fighting and fighting sports, combat sports, are professions of passion, right? You do not get in them for the paycheck. You get in them because you are addicted to that. If it's the high it gives you, or the adrenaline, or the reward, there is, for some reason, you want to be a fighter, and it's not strictly money. I assure you that. With that said, CM Punk joining the UFC is the biggest draw the UFC can get. He's going to raise pay-per-view numbers, right? So you raise your pay-per-view numbers, everyone on the card's getting a bigger cut. He's going to essentially he's going to have to fight someone else. There's another job for someone. He's a guy that you want to have on your brand. I don't understand why a UFC fan would have any sort of problem with this.
Well, and yeah, you know what? Maybe he didn't work his way up the UFC ranks to become a marquee athlete, but he had to work his way up the ranks in the WWE. So it's not like he was just handed this opportunity. He had to bust his butt in his former profession and just boil it down to normal everyday guy, right? Like you start off as a junior accountant somewhere, where you work your way up to vice president, and then another company comes along and they put you in a similar job title. Yeah, you didn't work your way up in that company, but you worked your way up in the profession. The Rock, he's the biggest movie star right now. It's not like The Rock went to Juilliard and studied drama for years and years. No, he worked his way up in the WWE, and then he used that platform to jump to something else. And if you're really concerned about CM Punk not earning his spot, well, that's going to show if he doesn't deserve to be there, right? Because he's going to get his butt kicked in the ring if he doesn't belong there.
Let's take me and you, for example, Mike, right? We like to talk about ourselves. We're as selfish as every other millennial out there. I'm very fortunate to have an AM radio program. You are very fortunate to have an AM radio program. I'm very fortunate to work for the St. Louis Ambush, a pro indoor sports team. Our stories on how both of we got here, they're completely different. Mm-hmm. It's not even so. I don't have a degree in broadcasting. I have a degree in loving sports, which I don't think is accredited. I broadcast high school and college games and hundreds of them. I mean, I've been behind the mic for so long that I've forgotten how much I've been behind the mic, but I've got to the level I want to be at, and it's not the same story as you or someone else that's had some success.
Right. And I think people get too caught up in people paying their dues. And I think people who get caught up on other people paying their dues, those people are doing themselves a disservice, because how many times, Fred, have you seen somebody walk into a profession of passion? After 2 years, they have a couple of good breaks, they get hot, and they ascend past the people who've been working at it for 10 years, quote unquote, paying their dues. That's just the way things are. And like I said, CM Punk, he had to work his way up in sort of, another realm of the same world where, sports entertainment fighting and all of that, but he worked his way up, and now he's moving over to something else using that platform.
We've talked about it when we were talking about our year-end awards, which were YouTube exclusive. So go to the weighinradio.com and check that out because those were excellent in my opinion. But I was talking about Conor McGregor and how Conor McGregor's personality is as big of an asset to the UFC as Conor McGregor's fighting capability. In a little bit, in my opinion, if Conor McGregor comes in and takes 155, takes 170, takes 190, takes all these weight classes and wins 4 belts in a row over the span of 4 months, which would be amazing to see, and it would be disastrous for the sport. It's all going to work for me because he's going to promote it and sell it correctly. I'm going to tune in because he is a mouthpiece that I like listening to.
Well, and let's be honest. I mean, if you're still trying to kind of cement yourself in the cultural lexicon like UFC, which is a well-established brand, but it's not quite the level of Major League Baseball or NFL football or even pro wrestling. A superstar without charisma isn't going to help you out a whole lot at this point in the game. You almost, and you hate to say this because, it kind of goes against the purity of the sport. Right now, I would say personalities are more important to the UFC than actual skilled fighters.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. I think a real good example is baseball players, right? So let's take a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's in a big market. It's a big team. Let's take a player like Yasiel Puig. Yasiel Puig, obviously, he's a personality guy. He's high energy. He's impactful. You want the camera to be on him. But unfortunately, there's a bit of a language barrier there, right? So because there's a language barrier, he does not connect with the fans the way that the Yasiel Puig equivalent English-speaking player would. And with that said, the personality exists, but you have to be able to communicate it well. And that's why guys like Conor McGregor work, and that's why guys like CM Punk work. If you want to get fired up about being the underdog, if you want to get fired up about being oppressed by your job, go watch some CM Punk promos. They relate to life. He doesn't just tell storyline whenever he's doing WWE promo. He's telling storyline that connects to the viewer. And that's why he's so likable. And that's why his fans are so proud to be fans of him, because he tells every man's story. And that's going to work for the UFC. That's going to work for me. He's going to come out and he's going to pump up or praise or whatever approach he has to take to the fight. And then I'm going to buy that fight and I'm going to watch it.
Well, Fred, in the coming weeks, we have a couple of new affiliates that we're going to be adding. Of course, 590 The Fan and 590thefan.com still going to be the flagship, but we have some important partnerships that we're going to be announcing over the next few weeks. In the meantime, we'll be back next week, and you and I will love to tell people we told them so about the overblown storylines that we're going to be seeing over the next 2 weeks. Okay, Fred, I'll see you later.
See ya.
590 The Fan, 590thefan.com, weighinradio.com. Bye. And we're clear.
That's my bad.
That's okay.
Thought you were calling it.
Oh, no, that's all right. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah, so I let it go a little bit longer to let you finish your point, but we'll still be good.
Well, according to my recording, we only have 50 minutes here.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Oh, I've got 56, so we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah. I could have. You're probably close, but 50 minutes still. It's a decent amount of time. But I thought it was 50. If I thought it was only 50, obviously we'd let it go longer. But
I'm not mad.